Patrick. And Patrick, within my organisation, we've been using a POP server for a number of years, so the mail is always stored on local machines that can be anywhere around the country or indeed outside it. I just want to understand, when you talk about the migration, can you migrate from those machines into the cloud? And if you can, how expensive is it, or how laborious is it to get the information?
So the tool sets we have two tool sets to help with the migration of email, but they're server side rather than POP. So with POP, generally you have two options. It's bring it down and have it on the desktop, or leave a copy up in the server in case you delete locally. I would imagine you're just bring it down and don't have anything server side. Realistically, the answer to that, just a couple of options. So you'll have to leave a copy on the server for a period of time, and we can start migrating that. We can take your PST files, and we offer a historical data load option where we can take your PST files and import it against the archive solution that I mentioned. And that will give them access to that information through a web interface. So in your case, it would be selected option, get the emails a copy of left at the POP server. Our tools can run against POP servers. It can move from IMAP, it can move from Exchange 2003 or higher, and it can move from hosted Exchange. So if you can get the current content being delivered to the POP server, we'll migrate that over, and the historical content can be either migrated up to the server in advance of the migration, or we can take the existing PSTs and upload it against the archiving service. Locally though, we can't run the tools against the local desktops.
But that migration up, is that something that's pretty automatic and cheap?
It is. Well, the tools to do it are cheap, and the time to do it will be dependent on the amount of quantity, the size, and the bandwidth that's available. Now, I'm being very high level regarding requirements, but the tools, so the transport tools are very good. I'll give you an example of, say you have 25 users and you have 500 megs worth of content per user. In one instance of the transport tool, we can allow you to have multiple threads, so we will max up your bandwidth to upload the content. But we also allow you to run multiple instances of the transport tool, so you can break out the users, and you can break it out on a time, or you can break it out on a size. So you could say, right, get the larger emails with the larger attachments up there first, get the heavy load done, and then the smaller emails over a period of time. The time option, we can do a chunk on a per weekend basis, so we don't have to do it. We can say, right, from today, back 2 weeks, do that now. Then the following weekend, 2 weeks to 2 months ago, get that content up there. And then the final running of the tool will do a cleanup against the server side and bring everything over, switch you off, and you're a cloud user. So I can get into more detail on how it partners. It depends on what way it suits you. The concern I have is that with the desktop side, there is going to be a body of work there. And as I said, I would recommend leave a copy of the server side, we'll migrate that over, and there's options to take the current content up. So in your scenario, there will be a bit of work to be done, but it can get done. It's not as straightforward because our tools are generally server side, and we can and have worked against POP servers, but the desktop clients will be a bit of a manual work.
And it's not an extremely big project to organise that historic information, it's just...
No, basically what we can do is that you take the PST files, you can add in a little naming convention against the user, you can put it up on a hard disk, and we charge a fee per gigabyte. You'll send a hard disk to our data center, and then our historical or HDL team will upload it against the user's profile in the archive.
We send the physical hard disk.
Yeah. Now there's obviously questions around that, and if it suits you as such, the fact that we're going to be handling your information. But we do return the hard disk, and we do notify you at each stage of the process regarding progress as well. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Just a general IT or security question would be, you know, there have been a few high-profile attacks on websites like Visa recently. So, you know, what do you do to keep on top of the hackers or keep ahead of them?
Or you have the example during the week of Recruit Ireland, unfortunately, that had their username, was their usernames and passwords, but all the other information was segmented. It's a good question to ask. Like, if ever you're looking for a company that has a big bullseye on their back for security attacks and targets, it's Microsoft. Like, we are absolutely open to many attacks from many quarters due to the nature of, one, we're the prevailing software vendor out there, two, regarding the various desktops and the various ways that people have implemented it, and so the browser considerations that we're always been open to attack. Everybody's familiar here with Patch Tuesday and having to keep updated and such. From a security point of view, if you think from an email point of view, we've got blacklists, whitelists. We have multiple layers outside of Microsoft that we work with third-party vendors to to manage that on our behalf as well as ourselves. We've had no issues with the service since it's gone live. Now locally, if I think of last January, and this is the honest piece, so Dave, I'll apologise in advance. Last January we had some unscheduled downtime that impacted about 4 of my customers in Ireland, and we had to we financially paid back their service subscriptions. We've had one unscheduled downtime that impacted customers since we launched in April 2009, and that was more of a configuration issue rather than an attack. It turned out it was a wrong network driver that was deployed on one part of the cluster. It was silly stuff, it shouldn't have happened. From an attack point of view, we've had no issues with the service since we've gone live, apart from the US. They had some downtime issues last year that was publicised. From a security point of view, we've had no compromises. I've had, pardon me, I had one issue with a customer who had a concern around the provisioning engine. So they're a small organisation, about 60 users, and they use SharePoint Online. And when they were going to see into the document libraries who had access to the information, there's a strange name at Microsoft.com there, and everybody got into a panic about road access, and it turned out to be an issue with the provisioning engine, the automatic provisioning engine of the services. I know I'm not answering your question directly, so what I'll do is I'll give you the security white paper regarding the layered approach, but I can also show you the information regarding the quality of the service over the last 12, 14 months. There's been no concerns from a security point of view, either from the data center itself to actually protecting the service or the pipes into the data center. I have it here with me, so I can show you afterwards. Sorry, I just don't have the details to hand. There's a lot to it.
I was just going to ask that question, but on another point, if a company is buying into this, who has ownership of the documents? And if a company is in financial difficulties, for instance, and payment isn't coming on time, do you just shut their service down? What happens then?
No, not at all. So the standard terms and conditions will give you 30 days to offboard from the service. So if, for example, you can't make the payment for whatever reason, or you missed the electronic invoice, we'll get in touch with you. You'll get a phone call from our accounts team in Sandyford just as a reminder. We will not turn off the service in any circumstances. Now, if you do want to offboard for whatever reason, we'll give you 30 days, where we'll say that you'll have 30 days to get your information. We can extend that by a further 30 days if required, and then we will do an automatic purge of the information. But the information is yours now. For full clarity, obviously regarding the different regulatory requirements, where your information is held is open to the laws of the country that it resides in. But your information is here in Northern Dublin, therefore it's compliant to the Irish regulatory requirements. The information is yours. We're just hosting it and providing it back as a service. There are other elements regarding compliance that you can be, or that we can be accountable for, or that your information can be accountable for. But that's from Microsoft to manage that process and make you aware of any stage. Because one of the questions we've got is, obviously we're a multinational company. We have the Patriot Act in the US, and can they request access to the information if they think you're a suspicious organisation or whatever? We have a very firm process of staff where we will make the US government go and directly engage with the customer relating their concerns. And there's a 4-stage process before we reluctantly may have to consider handing over the information. Now, LCA won't, obviously, for privacy reasons, tell us if this has happened. It's unlikely to, but it is a genuine question that people are concerned about, because it's just the nature of dealing with Microsoft as a multinational that we are open to US regulatory requirements as well as EU and Irish. But it's a concern, but it's the process inside, the document of how we learned it, we push it back to the customer to negate the concerns of the US government. And Microsoft being directly involved is the last step. We don't want to do this, but we do have a requirement for this.
You don't actually know if the US government are actually investigating somebody, so you don't know that they're actually accessing the information. So does that mean that they have free access to all the information?
For the US government to go down that line, they actually have to need to produce a subpoena. I'm pronouncing that right in English. They need to produce that to us before the engagement starts. They don't have any indirect access, they don't have any unauthorized access, there's no secret channels or backup passwords, there just isn't. There's a formal process of engagement between the US federal requirements to Microsoft, but then we will push back to them to work with the customer. We don't supply any information, we won't until it gets to a point where we
where the customer refuses to engage with the US regulators or the requirements over there. It is a bit of a sticking point, but we're very clear on it, is that if we do get engaged, we will push them back to the customer. They have to work with the customer, and if the customer is not receptive for any reasons during the legal process, we do have a requirement then at the last point to share the information. I've just been clear, I don't know if it's happened. They won't tell us if it's happened for very many reasons, but we're clear about the process if it comes to it.
Yeah, I appreciate your honesty in that.
It's an obvious concern, and it gets back to the joke that I made around the paranoia at the moment, and you're not going to turn off the camera this week. There is a whole culture of, oh no, the terrorists and everything have gone through over the last 10 years. It's a very legitimate concern. Will it happen? I can't say yes or no. Do we have a process in place if requested? Yes, we do. But we will be fully clear with the customer and the US government regarding how we engage with them and at what point we can share the information. It's not a happy state of affairs, but again, we also have to consider their requirements as well as ourselves. It's a strain.
Thank you.
You can turn it back on there.